Hello everyone, this is Zooc and today I'm bringing you a new cooking video. This one is going to be some fat sausage rolls for your fat belly rolls. This food is fattening as fuck. It's not a diet food in any universe. It's extremely bad for you and pretty much devoid of any nutritional value. But it is damn delicious and it combines three things that I would hope that most people love, such as the American style of breakfast biscuit, which Europeans are not familiar with, but they should be. The American style of breakfast sausage, which is a pork-based sausage, very tasty, very good, and very flavorful, which is based on the English style of breakfast sausage. So Brits should be quite familiar with it. And also some good old cheese, two types of cheese in this case, mozzarella and cheddar. So a nice neat package of very fatty and delicious things. So let's get started. We're going to start off with the sausage. What you're going to need are 500 grams or 1 pound of ground pork. If I was at home, I would be grinding my own pork, a piece of pork shoulder with another 100 grams or so of pork fat back added. But as it stands, we don't need more fat in this particular scenario because the fat's going to be drained anyway, and there's plenty of fat from every single source in the recipe. So it's fine for the pork to not be as fatty. To the pork, I'm going to add a simple seasoning mix. Actually, it's not so simple, but for me it is. For you, it might not be. It's made out of half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of Vegeta Maggi powder or pure MSG. At home I use pure MSG. No bullshit about MSG, it's fine. It's not poisonous. 1 teaspoon of pepper, 1 teaspoon of dried sage, 1 teaspoon of thyme, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, which a lot of Americans don't add to their breakfast sausage for some reason, but I'm Romanian and we add garlic to pretty much everything, including toothpaste probably in some regions. 1/4 teaspoon of rosemary, half a tablespoon of brown sugar, but you can use normal sugar. 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg and a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper or anything spicy such as red pepper flakes. That's it. That is it for the breakfast sausage. Add that stuff in there, shove your hand in there and squeeze that meat like you do every day. Not hard at all. Once the seasoning mix is well incorporated into the meat, we're gonna fry this in a pan. So in a cold pan, just throw the meat in there. Doesn't have to be hot, doesn't have to be anything. Obviously, it does have to be hot for it to be cooked. Haha, go logic. But turn on the stove to about medium heat. That should be fine. And with a spatula or with a wooden spoon, just crumble that shit up. It's going to take about 15 minutes to cook entirely. You need the smallest possible crumbles because this is going to get put on a piece of dough and rolled into a roll. So no big clumps of sausage. Thank you very much. About 15 minutes later, it should look like that. The way to tell if it's done is using your eyes. Yeah, I bet you didn't see that one coming. And also listening for a very loud, audible sizzle, which means that all the water from the pork has evaporated and it's now frying in its own oil. You don't need a lot of browning on it. Just cook it through. That's it. That's all you need to do. Now, if your pork is very fatty, like it can happen in some countries, but mine isn't, grab a colander and just drain that. Drain all the fat, and once that's done, just throw it back in the pan and let it cool off. And now we're gonna move on to the biscuit dough. The biscuit dough is quite simple. It's a breakfast quick bread, not what we Europeans understand by biscuit, like the crunchy sweet stuff, but it's just, I guess you could call it the poor man's French pastry dough. So what you need for that are 2 cups of flour, or if you're a person with common sense that weighs their ingredients, that would be about 260 grams of flour, 2 tablespoons of baking powder, 1.5 tablespoons of sugar, and 1 to 1.5 teaspoons of salt, depending on how salty you want your biscuits. And that's it for the dry ingredients. As for the fat, what I'm using there is pig lard. So that's rendered pork fat, which thankfully I could find in Prague, but in some countries I have a slight feeling that you might not be able to find it as easily. So 50 grams of lard and 50 grams of butter. You can use 100 grams of butter, but the bad part about the butter is that it can have anywhere from 15 to 18% water. And that's something that you don't really want in biscuits. Water is bad for this application. So you can use shortening as well, or you can use shortening all the way, or just basically any form of solid fat will do. As long as it's not oil or any sort of liquid fat. So that's it. 3 tablespoons of lard, 3 tablespoons of butter, or 50-50. And as for the liquid ingredients, what I have there is 3/4 of a cup of buttermilk. Now buttermilk for Romanians, as I am a Romanian, I had no fucking idea what that is up until a couple of years ago, is actually called lapte bătut. So you can easily find that in any supermarket, or you can make your own by using 1 tablespoon of acid, such as a vinegar or a lemon juice, Putting that in a cup and filling with regular milk all the way up till the 1 cup marker. Leave it for 5 to 10 minutes and that's it, you have buttermilk. But here in Prague I could find something called acidified milk, which is basically the same exact thing. So I'm using that instead. Now as for the fat, I forgot to mention that it's supposed to be extremely cold. So what you can do is cut the fat into cubes, put it in the freezer for like 20 minutes and then make the biscuit dough. And once the fat is in the flour, you mix it up with your hands or a pastry cutter like I did there until it resembles coarse sand. A few lumps are actually encouraged, not a problem at all. And once that is done, you just dump in the buttermilk and mix it up with your spatula or preferably your hand, but it's going to get pretty sticky. Now the idea is to not mix it up too much because the more you mix it, the more gluten develops, and gluten is that element that gives bread structure. But you don't want structure, you want it to be crumbly, flaky, soft, and break apart easily. So mix it up as little as possible until there are no dry bits of flour left and no crumbly bits. So it just needs to be like a cohesive but at the same time shaggy ball of dough. Once you're done with that, grab a foil or a piece of parchment paper, flour that shit up real good, and turn your dough out. Now at this point you could just cut this up into 6 or 8 pieces and you would have biscuits. But what I need here is something that has a bit of structure. So what I'm going to do is grab a rolling pin and roll it out a bit and then fold it like a letter into thirds. This is where having a parchment paper is absolutely essential under it, because as you put the dough down in its initial application, it's going to be very crumbly and it's going to break apart easily. But if you fold it once, it should hold well enough to be able to be rolled later on. So once I folded it up, I rolled it up to about 1/2 centimeter in thickness. Placed half my cheese there, which is a 70-30 ratio of grated cheddar to mozzarella. And now I'm going to put all of my sausage crumbles in the middle. You could spruce it up a bit and add some melted butter on the inside of the biscuit, but I think we're at the point where we've had enough fat by now. So once you put the sausage down, you put the rest of the cheese down and you grab the parchment paper and roll it up as carefully as possible. You need a lot of flour under it so it does not stick. If it sticks, then you're screwed. It's very hard to patch up biscuit dough. But I got lucky in this scenario. I actually hadn't done this before. It was the first time. So it came out very uniformly and it kind of stayed together. As you can see there, I'm trying to be as careful as possible to not break or punch through the biscuit dough. Just remember where the seam side is, and once you roll it up, leave it seam side down for a little bit for it to glue up. And once that's done, you cut them into 8 pieces and place them cut side up on a baking tray with a piece of parchment paper under it. You don't need to flour or grease that one. There's enough grease there for them to not stick, and that's the point of parchment paper in the end anyway. But just be very careful because biscuit dough is going to be very finicky at this stage, and there's a chance that the seams might come apart, in which case you just need to pinch them together. And even if they do come apart, it's fine. Like, it's not going to spread out a lot. It's basically going to be still a compact package. Leave about 3 centimeters or like 1 inch between each of them. It's highly likely that they're going to stick in the oven together, but you can easily break them apart later on without any hassle. Now at this point, what you can do is brush the tops with butter or cream or milk or egg. But butter, I think, for biscuits is a safe bet, although I'm not going to do that because I'm trying to watch my slim figure. But you should go for it if you're a thin fucker and you have nothing to worry about in the world. And you pop them in the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 Celsius for between 16 and 20 minutes. That's what my oven is capable of in this apartment, but your oven might be better or worse. So the best way to go about it is to just keep an eye on them until they get brown and not too dry around the edges. Or you can stick a toothpick in the middle in a piece of dough, and if it comes out clean, then it's basically done. Now the best part about this type of quick bread is that you don't have to wait for it to rest once it comes out of the oven. You can just shove it in your mouth right away, and you'll likely burn yourself, but hey, it's a risk. And just plate it up and serve it. This is great for breakfast, lunch, or just shoving them in your face on a Sunday afternoon like I did. So I hope you enjoyed this little simple recipe. Give it a shot. It's gonna be worth it, I promise. And please rate that shit if you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.